and welcome back to my channel. I'm Zalima and this is Zalima's Experience. Today I wanted to chat a little bit about the 50/50 boot by Stuart Weitzman. This is my favorite boot. I have several variations of the boot and I think they are very chic and stylish and classic, and also I have big feet, as I mentioned in my first video, and I wear a 12 and Stuart Weitzman actually offers that size. So once I find a shoe that I can fit comfortably, I tend to buy several pairs of that same shoe. So today what I wanted to talk to you all about, or what I wanted to share, was a little bit of the history of the boot, kind of how it evolved into this kind of cult-like following, I would say, and like the it girl boot. So initially I discovered the boot in a fashion magazine while I was a teenager. So like in the early 2000s, I was all about fashion magazines. Saw the boot there, he showed it to my mom, and my mom that was my introduction to the brand. She talked about how Stuart Weitzman was popular and kind of the reason why, and how that had been a brand that she learned about while she was in college, I believe. So from there, it just kind of spiraled into this obsession with like obtaining this boot. And so while I was in college, I lived in Chicago and I rode the bus. And every day on Michigan Avenue on my way to school, I would pass the Stuart Weitzman on Michigan Avenue. So I just literally became obsessed with getting these boots. Now, while I was in college, I did not get the boots. Actually, I didn't acquire the boots until I was in my 20s. Like late 20s, I think. So it took, some time for me to get a pair, because of the price tag, obviously. And also, that just wasn't something that I saw as an investment at the time, when obviously my parents didn't think it was something that I needed, because it was essentially just a boot to them. So like I said, I ended up getting my first pair of boots in my late 20s. I actually found them at Nordstrom Rack, and it wasn't the traditional 50/50 style. Well, it was, in the sense that it was a suede front and a microfiber stretch back, which is the traditional style. However, they were not over the knee. They were a little bit, I think they are actually at knee. And like I said, they were suede. So I think I paid, they didn't have the steep price tag as they tend to do. So they were about $430 at Nordstrom Rack. And then a few days later, I went back to Nordstrom Rack and they had a clear the rack event. And since I got the boots on clearance, I was able to actually get an additional 25% off. So I think I ended up paying somewhere around $300 for my initial pair of 50/50s. Now, they were a size 12, obviously. I tried them on in store and they fit. So excited about that. And the only downside was that they were black suede. And so in general, I'll say I'm better now, but then I wasn't. I just didn't take good care of my stuff. And so suede was like a downside for me. However, I really wanted the boot, so I just went ahead and purchased them. And that had to be in like maybe 2014, 2015. Now, like I said, I originally discovered not just the brand, but the actual style of the 50/50 boot, the classic traditional 50/50 boot in the early 2000s, probably around like 2004 or 5. And so I want to give you all a little bit of the history of the boot, because that was not like a re-release of the boot or anything like that. It was just when I locked in on the boot. So when talking about the history of the 50/50 boot, I'm first going to start with the history of the over-the-knee boot. So the over-the-knee boots date back to the 15th century, and they were riding boots originally for men. Now, as time progressed, they began to be adapted by women, and in the 60s, the late 60s, I believe it was, became more of a style. So Pierre Cardin, I'll post a picture actually, or try to add a picture here. Pierre Cardin actually showcased a PVC thigh-high boot on one of his runway shows in the late 60s, and that kind of like is what started this big fashion trend for these thigh-high boots. Now, thigh-high boot obviously is going to hit in the thigh, so it's like the mid-thigh area. The 50/50 boot is over the knee, so in general it stops right, I say, within 2 to 3 inches over your kneecap. So if you were to bend your knee, that little part right over top of your knee. It's going to stop there. And now it also depends on your height. And like I said, I'm 6 feet tall, so this is actually where my boots rest. But if you are shorter, they could actually rest a little higher. During the 60s, other high fashion designers in general began to showcase the boot. So like I mentioned, Pierre Cardin and his 1968 High Couture fashion show showcased that PVC thigh-high boot that I referenced. Also, there was Yves Saint Laurent and Roger Vivier. They also showed some variation of this thigh-high or over-the-knee boot. Okay, so we're gonna fast forward a little bit through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. And in 1993 was when the Stuart Weitzman 5050 boot was initially offered to the public. After becoming available in 1993, the boot was very popular. It has become a favorite among celebrities. The 20th anniversary for the Stuart Weitzman 5050 boot was in 2013, I believe. And at that time, there were a ton of variations available. So right now, the variations are limited and they tend to vary by season, but for that 20th anniversary, there was like a leopard print that was like velour kind of. There was like an oxblood, a navy blue leather, I believe, a Swarovski crystal encrusted boot, of course, and a couple of other variations. It depended on actually the retailer. So Neiman Marcus had a variety of variations, like literally a ton. And with the only catch, I guess, was that you had to order the boot through them and then the boot would be made. So these were technically custom order boots. So as I mentioned, there are several variations of the boot, and so I want to talk a little bit about that. The traditional style of the 5050 boot is an over-the-knee boot, the front and the back, so the heel counter and the front of the foot, and also up the shaft of the boot, the front shaft of the boot, I should say. Those are all going to be one fabric. So traditionally, it has been leather. However, you can also find them in suede. And as I mentioned, in the event that there is some special event going on, you can find them in other fabrics such as snake, velour, pave, things of that nature. So the front half is always going to be the, we'll say, the main fabric. The back half, they're always the same, and it's going to be that microfiber stretch. So that allows for the boot to be less restrictive because the boot does not have a zipper. It is a pull-on boot. And so the microfiber just allows the wearer of the boot to pull the boot on comfortably and also has some flexibility in the back. So remember, when you're walking, your calf muscles and other muscles in your legs, we'll say your shin or the surrounding muscles, those are going to constrict and flex as you walk. And so the 5050 boot, in my opinion, allows for that movement to happen without there being a lot of restriction around those muscles or your leg in general. The fabric will vary or can vary depending on the season or, you know, what's, I would say, trendy in fashion. So this year they actually had a bunch of variations. Like there was one with a woven front. There's my favorite, which I never can seem to get my hands on, which is the traditional full leather boot with the stretch back. However, on the side seams of the boot, there is a leather fringe. Love those, can never get my hands on them. So there's that one. The heel heights can also vary. So they would be, now these, they don't always call them, they're not technically 50-50s because once the style begins to change a little, it's just not the traditional 50-50. The traditional 50-50 is a flat boot with maybe a 1-inch heel height on the back heel. I actually don't even think it's that high because there is another boot that comes after the 50-50. Everything looks the same except the heel height is a little bit higher, and that's going to be the Stuart Weitzman Reserve boot, which is actually a very nice boot. I just don't own that one. So some other variations that you may see in this style, which like I said, they're not going to be called the 50-50. They're typically going to have some other name, but they still have the 50-50 style. So they're still going to have the whatever fabric in the front, whether it be microfiber or whether it be leather or suede, and a microfiber back. So those are going to be like, these are older styles, but like I think it's the all jack. I have those. There's the 50-50 block, which has a higher heel height, but it's a stacked heel. The all jack is suede and it has a skinny higher heel. I'll show those. There is, I'm basically talking about the styles that I actually own because I know for a fact they exist. There's the 50-50 lift. I have that. That's more of a like platform look. Then there is the, I can't think of the name of this one, but I will show it and try to find the name so that I can reference. So one of the things that we tend to be concerned with when we are, I would just say plus size, is whether or not boots will go over our calf. And this is one of the reasons why I really love the 50-50 boot, because the 50-50 boot with that microfiber back is really going to stretch to fit your calf. So I have a larger calf and it's actually pretty muscular. So I tend to not have any problems with getting my 50-50 on. However, I have seen instances where people tend to struggle. And actually, I believe if you kind of do a Google search, I recall when I was first thinking about purchasing the boot that a lot of people talked about the issues with pulling the boots on. But I tend to not have any problems with that. One of the ways around that is you just fold the boot down. So you're gonna fold the boot down so that it's the top actually meets the bottom of the boot. Slip your foot in then, and then, you know, once it's on and you get past the heel counter, because that's another area where folks tend to have some difficulty. But once you get past the heel counter, then you can just pull the boot on, and then you just fold the body of the boot back up your shaft, or fold the shaft of the boot, excuse me, back up the length of your shin or your calf, and then generally you're good to go. They don't, for me, because I have such a muscular or bigger calf, they don't tend to fall down. The pair that I referenced that I believe may be a 12 wide, those actually do fall down because they are too big. But in general, if you have a bigger calf, I don't think you'll have problems with the boot staying up. It's when you have a smaller leg that doesn't really fill out the body of the boot where I think you may see some problems. And I only know one person, I believe, that has a boot that is on the smaller side, and she did mention the way the boot looks on her leg. But I honestly think that if you're going to wear jeans with the boot or anything like that, it will be fine and it's going to fill your boot out perfectly. The other thing that I remember or recall having an issue with when I got my first pair of boots was wearing jeans with the boots. And so one of the things that I found online that people would do is use pacifier clips for babies, and they would create like a stirrup with their pant, and then they would put the sock on over that, and then they were able to put the boots on without their jeans rolling up. Now, if you wear a skinny leg jean, this is typically not going to be a problem, but one of the ways to counter that is I just put a sock on and make sure that it goes over my ankle, so over the opening of the jean, and pull the sock up as high as I can, and then generally I have no issues. However, if you're wearing a boot with a jean with a wider opening, or a pant with a wider opening, you will have some issues, and it will create like a bulky look around the ankle of your boot. So, but what you can do is you just take the jeans and kind of overlap the hem, or overlap the jeans, excuse me, so that they kind of layer on top of each other. And generally what I would do when I did have that issue was I would just do it somewhere in the side seam or in the back of the boot where it's not going to be as noticeable, because the boot bunches due to moving anyway. So, you know, you just kind of find a way to kind of conceal it. If I do it in the seam, it's going to be in the side seam that faces inside my leg, so it's not as noticeable. And like I said, the other option was the back of the boot, but it really just depended on what I would wear, because now skinny jeans, well, they may become a thing of the past soon, but they're still in at this point, and so I tend to wear a skinnier pant if I do wear my 50-50 boots. The other thing that I recommend that you do, or that I would consider my third tip, is asking for a second dust bag. So generally the boots come with one dust bag, which they would both fit in. However, the reason why I say ask for a second one is if you're traveling with your boots, which I tend to do, you would want to put them in two separate dust bags just to prevent them from scratching each other and things like that. The leather is very soft. It's like a Napa leather, and so actually with my first pair that I purchased at full price, I actually had scratched them like immediately, because my nails aren't long but they tend to be sharp, and so that was just something I had to deal with. There was no way to repair the scratch, and so ultimately I just lived with it. I actually still wear those boots. It's an eyesore, but it's fine. So just to prevent things like that, because the soles tend to have like these little, it's like the back sole kind of, it has like a generally like a little pointy part initially, and then it'll start to wear down. But like I said, just to prevent any type of let's say color transfer, and also any scratches or anything like that, ask for a second dust bag when you purchase your boots, if you're purchasing in the boutique. Another way to get around that, because Nordstrom won't have a second dust bag for you, so this would have to be an in boutique purchase, or online Stuart Weitzman purchase. So what you could also do is then just go to your local boutique and just say, you purchased the shoes and you would like a dust bag. You don't need to elaborate or anything, just ask for a dust bag that fits the 50-50 boot. But my fourth tip, excuse me, is going to be to get leather over suede. So like I said, they offer both, and then there will be different variations depending on which fabric you get. But I recommend getting leather over suede just because I feel like the leather is more durable. I would say half my boots are leather and half are suede. And with the suede boots, I find that even with the Scotch Guard or any water protectant over them, they still tend to, I would say, look more worn than the leather boots. So with leather, you have to worry about color transfer, water, obviously, or any other liquids or water solubles touching your boots. And they just, like I said, they just look worn. I'm sorry. I think I said with leather, but I meant with suede. You have to worry about water solubles, and things like that. And suede is just not my favorite. I think it looks nice, and it's definitely a way to elevate your look. If you're gonna wear, just like a classic outfit, a suede boot definitely would set it off. But if you're looking for longevity and let's say you're just making this purchase and you want to purchase one pair of boots, I definitely would go with the leather over the suede. The leather is going to wear down in time, or with time rather, but it's still going to hold up. And there's ways around, there's ways to make leather look better. With suede, it's like you would have to go to a cobbler to get them dyed and things like that. And I'll go to a cobbler, but I don't know that it's worth the money. I think by themselves, like without any touch-ups or anything, the leather boot is definitely worth the investment. I think I forgot to talk about the price of the boot. So I think the boots are an investment. Any fashion piece or a staple item in your closet is obviously going to be an investment piece. But with these boots, I think you would definitely get your cost per wear out of the boots. So back when I first started admiring the boots, they were in like the high 500s. So today, if I were to look back and say, oh, 500, like, why didn't I get those boots? Who knows? Well, I know why, but I didn't get them. So my first pair, like I said, I got those at a nice price, around $300. So then my second pair, I paid full price for. And so the price had actually jumped up at that point. So it went from around $500 to $595. I believe I paid $595 for my second pair of boots. So then there was another price hike, like all of the, I would say, the fashion houses or the luxury brands these days. Stuart Weitzman was having a price increase. It wasn't so frequent as, like, let's say the Chanel's and the Louis Vuittons, but they did have, I think it's been about 4 price increases since I started purchasing these boots. So I've paid, so like I said, started at 500, then it was 595, 625 from the 595, 635 after that. And I think the last pair I bought, I paid 754, and that was last year. So there's a range there also. So like, let's say the base boot would be the 750. Then they could go up to as high as $1,000 depending on the different variations. So there was a pair, I think this year the highest pair may have been in the 900s or something like that. That pair that I talked about with the fringe or the tassels down the side, it's called the mane. I think it's the mane, M-A-N-E, like a horse's mane. And I think those were $830. So there's definitely there's a range of pricing, and you know, the boots just kind of fall in the range, I think, depending on the intricacy of the style. So there's that. Like I said, the most I've paid for the boots are $750, but I definitely think it's an investment. Like I said, I have big feet, so once I find something that I can fit and I like, I just tend to stick with it and get every style that I can get my hands on, or every color, style, variation, whatever you want to call it. If I can get my hands on it, I'm going to get it. So one of the other things about the price, like I said, you can find them at the Stuart Weitzman outlets, Nordstrom Rack. Nordstrom also is a good place because they do the anniversary sales, and I tend to find that Stuart Weitzman tends to be wrapped up in the anniversary sale, so that's also, you know, a good place. But what you tend to find is discontinued styles, which isn't so bad because, like I said, they're all variations of the same boot. So if you're just looking for something with a fabric front and a stretch back that's going to fit you comfortably, I don't think it matters whether or not it's traditional 50-50 or traditionally a 50-50 boot, or if it's the Meze, I think, or something like that, or the City boot, for example, because that's one that's out now. And I know for a fact the City boot is on sale, but it is also a variation. I want to say it's a variation of the 50-50, but now that I'm thinking about it, that might be a full fabric boot, so don't quote me on that. But you know, you can, if there's a style, specific styles you're looking for, they will show up at those outlets and things like that if it's discontinued. If you're looking for current season, those are going to be at the big names: Neiman Marcus, Saks, Nordstrom, Stuart Weitzman, of course. So some of the other discontinued styles that you may be able to find at these other places, like I said, they're not always going to be traditional 50-50. So if you're not pressed for an over-the-knee boot, I would go with one of those like outlets. Like I said, the ones I named previously, I'm not going to go over them again, but I would look for those styles. So like, for example, one of the variations that they have is the 50-50 booty. Now, my mom wanted some 50-50 boots, but I honestly just can't imagine her putting those on. So we got the 50-50 booty because she said she liked it. And, you know, those are a lot easier for her to put on because there's obviously a huge difference in the shaft of the boot. So like the 50-50 booty is probably like, let's say it's just like this high. It's like an ankle boot, true booty. The 50-50, you know, it's going to be at least 21 inches, which is just not feasible for her. So they're definitely, like I said, tons of variations. I want to share my boots with you all so that you all can see some of the variations that I talked about that Stuart Weitzman offers. So I'm going to start with the traditional boot. Now, these are not all my boots. I still have a couple pair in my closet that I did not pull out, but these are the ones that I wear mostly. So I'll start with the traditional 50-50 boot. And as you can see, these are black. Obviously, they're leather. These are actually in pretty good shape because this is like my newest pair of the plain black boots. So this is the leather body that I was talking about. And so this is, like I said, the heft microfiber in the back. And I think previously I said that the counter is going to be fabric, but actually I'm noticing now that it's not. It's actually that microfiber also. So I have these. I have this pair. I have another pair of these and that are exactly the same. They're just a little bit worn. That was my first true pair of 50-50s. I have another pair that is my first pair of Stuart Weitzman's that are similar to this, but they are suede and they're actually just a tiny bit shorter than this boot. I have these are the 50-50 lifts and this nice brown color, which I actually just adore. My boots are actually a little bit dusty because they've been out of the box for a while, but these actually, so because they're light, they actually have a few like stains and scratches on them. So like I said, black is really my preference when it comes to this boot, but you'll see I do have another color also. So these are the 50-50 lift. I got these last year. These were the boots that I referenced as being $750, and I just could not live without them. The sole is a little bit different. I don't think, usually on the sole of the shoe, it'll say Stuart on one shoe and then Weitzman on the other. I don't know if any other pair that I brought out here today actually have that. This is the newer style for the sole where it just says SW on the bottom. But in the older style, they tend to say Stuart on one foot and then Weitzman on the other. Actually, this pair that I have coming up may, I think they do. So these are my blue suede 50/50s. And as you can see, they're pretty long. I've only worn these like maybe twice. I think I got them in 2018. So they are very new, basically. These do say Stuart on one foot and then Weitzman on the other. Okay, so this next boot that I'm going to show you, this is the one that I referenced as being the all jack, and I think it's actually the low jack. So this is going to be, like I said, true 50/50 style. So this one actually does have a fabric counter. So it's not true 50/50 style, but it is traditional in the sense that it does have still half microfiber, half fabric. And this has, like you can see here, just I think this is about a 3-inch heel. I've actually only worn these a couple of times. They are also over the knee. And like I said, I really just have an issue with suede because, like I said, I've only worn these a couple of times, but you can see they're worn here. And actually, I wore these out and yeah, somebody spilled a drink on them. So that was it for those boots. This is, so this next one, this is actually a true 50/50. They're a little wrinkled because they've been in the box, but this is the 50/50 block. I think these were only actually offered for 1 year. I haven't seen them since I got them actually. And this is what I meant by they're wrinkled, because it looks like I just put them in the box after my last wear and didn't stuff them. So yeah, these are, they have a heel also, but it's a block heel, unlike that low jack, which has the narrower heel. But these are actually pretty comfortable. And I think these are actually great for like work. I tend to wear these like when I go to work, when I'm in the office and I want to go somewhere after work, I would opt for these. My regular 50/50s are just going to be like my everyday work boots. So like the black and the blue and the brown, those would be standard work boots for me. So that was the 50/50 black. So far we've gone through the 50/50, the 50/50 lift, the low jack, and then the 50/50 block. And so the last style I'm going to show you all today is not the true 50/50, and it's with the same toe shape. So this one has a different toe shape and also a different heel shape, which I don't know that you'll be able to see in this video, but I'll try to show, or to try to get the point across essentially. But this is the Motley, and so like I said, true 50/50 in the sense that it's half microfiber, half fabric or leather in this case. But if you can see here, the heel kind of has like this almost trapezoid shape here. So that's one way that we know that it's not the classic 50/50. And then the toe, this is the one where I was talking about, with the toe being more of a square shape as opposed to an almond shape like the traditional 50/50. This is an older style. I think it came out the same year that 50/50 block came out. So this does have Stuart on one foot and then Weitzman on the other foot on the sole. So these are an older variation, like I said, but also not even older in the sense it's like vintage or anything like that, but it's definitely older. Like, so they were doing this in the, I'd say 2000, so like, but not, let me just put a range on it. We'll say 2010 through 2018, they were still doing the Stuart on the sole. And I actually prefer this. I think it is very, I think it's just cute. It distinguishes the boot from other boots. So if you know, let's say you're walking in the snow and you happen to see a Stuart, you're like, oh my God, it's distinguished, you know that somebody walking with some 50/50s came through here. But that's just my opinion. I really do actually, I think that just adds a little something to the boot, given that it's so classic. So that's my take on the 50-50 boot by Stuart Weitzman. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you found it informative. Of course, if there are additional questions that you would like me to answer in regard to this boot and the fit or anything, really, you can leave a comment and I'll be sure to answer. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow and helps others receive the same content and information that you received. Thank you for watching.